Chapter 5, the final issue in this little arc here. It's called Chapter 5, Dust. That's never a good thing. Jedi Master Emmerich, after following leads for the murder of a Jedi, has fallen under the effects of the nameless creature that causes unimaginable pain to the Order. While Emmerich was down, Dr. Uttersan's partner in crime, Arathab Fal, tried to strike down 33A Shadra fan named Bisar, who was protecting Emmerich. Sion Holt stepped in, wielding Emmerich's saber to save both Emmerich and Bisar from Arathab. It seems that everything has come crashing down around Emmerich and Sion, everything including the Starlight Beacon. So fast and furious with this. It opens with Emmerich's vision of the Force-sucking creature. Uttersan, in the next scenes, you know, he sort of recovers, or like, oh my god, I'm so happy you're back. Uttersan is back up and alive. He is questioned. He tries to prove tough, but Bisar is like, listen, buddy, you've got family back where you live. You're not as tough as you think. You need to tell us everything that's going on. So in so many words, I'm actually going to read this. The parchment, so they had a parchment that they got from the cave that had all the inscriptions on it from an earlier issue. Here's what we're dealing with. Again, this is a major spoiler alert to the Path of the Jedi, or excuse me, the Light of the Jedi, which is the first part of this entire series. You know, this whole mystery of what's affecting the Jedi is what the story has been leading to at least part 2. So if you don't want to listen to it, then I would knock it out now, like the video, come back later. If not, here we go. So, more or less, they're trying to sell this weapon. Some call these creatures the Shri Karai, eaters of the Force. To others, they are simply called the Nameless. Their mere presence causes madness, hallucinations in Force users. I haven't figured out how yet. And the only way to control them is an ancient artifact that was split into 2 pieces. The eye has both parts, and that's how blah, 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 blah. So in the book, it's called The Leveler. In the IDW series, if you remember Tromac, Marchion Ro asks him for the location of the cave, and that's how he puts the thing together, and that's how Loden Greatstorm is kind of killed. So the creatures who affect the Force are called the Nameless. Uttersan reveals some key details. We find out that Starlight Beacon is breaking apart, which is actually, you know, it's literally breaking apart, so that puts us at nearing the end of Fallen Star. Sion and Emmerich decide to try to help those on Starlight Beacon by getting through. Another ad for the Galactic Star Cruiser. Lord help us. They crash their ship through a glass structure, and Sion and Emmerich make it onto Starlight Beacon. Buckets of Blood is there from the IDW series with a bunch of Padawans, and Court, who was wearing the mask before. It seems like Court injured one of the nameless creatures. So Emmerich's like, well, if it's hurt, we might be able to gather some data. If we can gather some data, we can try to figure out what we need to do to fix this issue. So they enter into the mysterious cave. They start to, well, not cave, but hallway. They start to hear the nursery rhymes. They make a plan of what they want to do. Emmerich and Sion move forward. The Buckets of Blood and Padawan stay back. The hallucinations just start. They start to get worse. But Emmerich is fighting through it. He goes, there's nothing to be afraid about because this is just all in my head. Let's keep going. He told Q2 to start collecting data on just everything that is. And then, boom, we've got this claw. And he's like, listen, I know it's something. I just need you to describe it for me so I can have a better idea what it is. And she just describes it as like long, gangly claws. It's definitely injured from Quart. Emmerich attempts to reach out with the Force. We've got some eyes here, so he's trying to make a connection with the creature. And it attacks Sion and Emmerich, and Buckets of Blood's like, whoa! And Quart's like, oh my gosh. And the 2 Shadrafans are like, whoa. And notice Uttersan is grabbing on to this thermal detonator. So the Nameless attack. Scion shoots. Uh-oh, Stellan shows up. Just kidding, not Stellan. That's a hallucination. He cuts off one of the claws. Uttersan's like, get the hell out of the way. I'm about to throw this thing. It then blows up the creature. The Nile show up. They're fighting back. Buckets of Blood is engaged. Court is engaged. They're like, we got this. You get the heck out of here and take all the Padawans. And Emmerich's like, that explosion, it killed that creature. We don't have anything. And Scion's like, we don't have anything. Don't worry. I was able to capture this specimen piece. Buckets of Blood's like, listen, I got blood on this robe. You take the robe. Now I'm kind of naked. Okay, no problem. We're going to accept that. He seemingly goes in to battle the Nile. We don't really know what happens, but he does ask them to take the Padawans. And then we do find out that Court, who we know just lost his mask in the IDW series, was newly knighted as a Jedi Knight. So that's a pretty cool little thing, and maybe they'll get to that in the IDW series. But hey, whatever. We find it out. We find out that Uttersan disappeared. Maybe he's dead. We're not really sure. Obviously, Besar, we're not really sure about because we don't see them at the end. Q2 is now starting the analysis. Emmerich doesn't have answers, but finally something's happening. But for the sake of the survival of the Jedi, it is up to Emmerich to figure out the mystery as Starlight Beacon breaks and burns up and starts to enter the atmosphere of that planet, and that is how Fallen Star ends. And this is how Trail of Shadows ends. We have a lead on the creatures, the nameless creatures, but we don't have any answers as of right now. And I have to say, I often hate side stories, but I enjoyed this one just because we get a little bit of insight of what's been happening to the Jedi. So that's number 5. Trail of Shadows, Starlight Beacon in the background here. Trail of Shadows, Foul in the background here. Number 3, Scion on stage. Number 2, bunch of things happening here, battling the Nile. And of course, the introduction of Emmerich and Scion. And that thus concludes our 5-issue arc. So as always, your attention and your wonderful interaction is always appreciated.